Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. My name is Scotty McCoy, and I have an alumni from both Friday the 13th and Days of Our Lives on the phone. She played Jane in Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, and Isabella Black on Days of Our Lives. Her name is Staci Greason. Hi Staci, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, all things considering. I'm hunkered down like everybody else.
Not a problem. I figured having this podcast would be a good way to give some people entertainment while they're all, bogged down in their homes.
Yeah.
So So as I was talking to you earlier before we started recording, there's two parts that I'm going to be asking. The first part will be on Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, with 9 questions, and the other part has 9 questions on your tenure with Days of Our Lives. Alrighty.
Right, and I said, let's see how much I can remember. But I'll try my best.
Not a problem. So the first question really has nothing to do with Friday the 13th or Days. It's how did you get your start into acting?
Well, I started acting in high school plays, and then I moved out to Los Angeles to be an actress, and I moved in with my college roommate, and we did the, crazy waiting tables, tons of different jobs, going on auditions. And I worked for a wonderful agent named Irvin Arthur. He discovered Ellen DeGeneres. In fact, I got to go with her to her first Tonight Show appearance.
Awesome.
And I worked for Irvin Arthur. He had, oh my goodness, he discovered so many comedians. He was fantastic. And we submitted the young girls who worked for him, we would submit ourselves through the breakdowns for acting roles, without telling Irvin, and that's how I got. And then I moved to and so then I started going on a lot of auditions, and then I started working for a publicist at the Brokaw Company and doing tour press and still submitting myself through them. And I got a screen test for the soap opera Santa Barbara.
Awesome.
And I didn't get that role, but I guess an executive producer of Days of Our Lives saw the screen test or something, and Shelley Curtis, and she brought me in to audition for a role on Days of Our Lives. And I wound up screen testing, trying to remember, I think over the course of 2 years, I screen tested for 5 different parts on Days of Our Lives.
Wow. What parts did you audition for?
I can't even remember the names. I can't remember the names of the roles. I really can't.
No problem.
I wish I could. So, and then I was told that the network didn't think I was pretty enough to be on a soap opera, but Shelley Curtis really liked me, and so she gave me a recurring role, and she said, you have a few weeks to prove to the network that you can be on this show, and so I did, and yeah, it was most fortuitous. I think it's so important to have people in your corner.
Right.
She was really wonderful, as were many of the writers and actors on that show. And the casting director, Doris Saba, was delightful.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So it was a good experience.
Awesome. So I'm going to throw out a bonus question since you mentioned Ellen DeGeneres. How is she as a person? Is she a nice person? Anything about her?
She was great.
Awesome.
That was a million years ago. We were all so young, and it was so exciting. I just went with another assistant, and we sat in the Blue Room, and back then it was Johnny Carson, which is a really big deal. And we were also nervous for her to go out and do her stand-up. And in those days, when you were finished with your routine, if Johnny called you over, then you had a career.
Nice.
And so we were all waiting, when she finished her routine, and he said, come on over here. And we were all crying and so excited for her. So.
Awesome. She seems like an amazing person. She really does. And she there's stories out there about everybody, but, I think she's just a phenomenal person. And what an experience to have, just to to meet her and to be on daytime television in general. I always wanted to do that, and I'm a big fan of Days of Our Lives. Actually, after this interview, I'll be watching today's episode.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing about rumors about how other people behave, it's more. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, and to me, it says more about the person judging than it does about the person that they're judging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so everybody has their bad days.
It seems like a terrible waste of time. Everybody has a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I have plenty of people who could say that they had a bad day with me if I had a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I could tell you, anybody that met me, if they saw me in a bad day, they would probably be saying a lot of bad things about me. Because I mean, when you're having a bad day, you're not going to be all rainbows and lollipops.
Right, and you could just be in a moment. And, honestly, to be on television is a lot of pressure. I did not enjoy the pressure. It was too much pressure for me. I was too, I much prefer being a writer. I much prefer being behind the camera than in front of the camera.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I heard from daytime actors, just in interviews that they had in general, because you're my first interview with anybody that's been a part of Days of Our Lives. But I mean, I'm sure I interviewed some other horror actors and actresses that have been on Days of Our Lives in smaller roles. But you're one of the bigger stars that was on the show for more than just a brief appearance. And from the interviews that I heard from them, they said that it's just a grueling process. You're filming 5 episodes in a matter of a day or two. It's insane.
When I was on, it was crazy because we were shooting a full episode every day.
It's crazy.
So you would go. They don't have that same schedule anymore now. They block and tape. But we used to have to all come in at the same time in the morning, do a dry run with the director, then a run with the cameras, then lunch, then full dress rehearsal, then taping. And so it was 80-hour weeks, And I mean, it's a good job to have if you're an actor. It's such a good job. And you can really develop as an actor. It isn't the grueling schedule so much as I think it would be more for me. It was the media pressure, not being able to just sit in a restaurant or walk through an airport, and that is part of the job. You have to be okay with it, and I just was very uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I started up a small indie film company, and we're locally famous now, and we have a premiere coming up locally, and we filmed in Centralia and a lot of local places, and just when I go into the supermarket now, I live in Maryland for work, but when I go, went home and everything on weekends, I would go into the supermarket and I'd have people stopping by wanting a picture or an autograph or just saying hi. And I'm I'm just a local person. They're like, yeah, but you're locally famous. And it's I can't even go into the supermarket. Cool. It's cool, but it's it gets very overwhelming. It's I go in to buy milk and bread and I'm getting mobbed.
Right.
So I can imagine what you had to feel.
And for actresses too, there's so much pressure. I think there's less pressure now, thank goodness. Thank goodness it's changing. But there was so much pressure to have to be skinny and pretty, and that's exhausting.
It is.
It's really I just want to be a person.
Right.
I am just a person. So, but it's a good job, and a lot of people handle it just fine. I think it depends on your makeup,
Right. And so I'm going to skip the Friday the 13th Part 7 sections because actually the first 2 questions of my Days of Our Lives were just answered, so I might as well just start with Days of Our Lives. Might as well. Hey, I knew Days was going to be a big topic of this. I'm a huge fan. I've been a fan since 95. I know I for the most part, never saw you on the show when you aired because I probably wasn't born yet. I was born in '89, I believe.
Because I'm so old. I'm very old.
I was just born in '89, but I watched so many clips, not just to prep for this interview, but I've always been fascinated with the '80s and the '90s of daytime television and even movies in general. And I loved your character, and I was very heartbroken when she got killed off. Just seeing the scenes and everything. Loved your character. But speaking of your death scene, what was it like filming that? Was it all emotional, or what was going on?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that was really hard because I loved working with Drake so much. And they were doing such good writing. And the crew on Days of Our Lives are just fantastic. And I had so many friends on that show. And I was young, and so I wanted to go on and, pursue writing and what else is out there. I wanted to go on. I was thinking maybe I didn't want to be an actor anymore. But as we were nearing, so I didn't want to sign another contract. I wanted to go. So I was fortunate they gave me all this beautiful writing, and they gave a beautiful story to that character.
Right.
So it was something I could sink my chops into. But definitely shooting that stuff was very bittersweet because as it was happening, I think I started realizing, oh, this is really happening. I'm leaving this whole family, and because it's a family, when you work with people like that, it's a family.
Yeah.
And I cried so those tears were real. Drake and I cried really hard, and I didn't think it would be so hard leaving, but it was very hard. It took me a long time to get over not being there.
Right.
I really, really missed it.
Right. So I'm assuming
that was unexpected. I had thought, I'm moving on to my new journey. And then it was hard to figure out what's my new journey when I've already had this kind of success in my mid-20s. It was hard to sort of navigate to, figure out what
Right. And
what I wanted to do next.
And being on daytime television, like, it's not like, oh, I'm on Days of Our Lives, I'm a main character, I'm golden, I got a job for the rest of my life or for as long as I want, because they can easily, like, let you go. I mean, even recently with some of the big names that they let go, even before the pandemic started, like just releasing Will and Sonny and Rafe, like, everybody's shocked that they let them go, but a lot of it's budgetary reasons, or the actor just wants to move on, but I mean, if you don't want to come back, they can recast you. There's just so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah, it's a job.
Yeah.
Definitely a job. And for some people are lucky enough to turn it into a career. Yeah. And some people want to try other things,
Yeah. So other than your death on Days of Our Lives, what was your most memorable storyline?
Well, I do love escaping the asylum with Jack, with Matt Ashford.
Yes.
Because we had such a good time working together.
Yep.
And we are also fellow Buddhists, so we have a lot in common. So we had a good time. I liked the silly stuff when Isabella was a detective.
Okay.
That was really fun. I liked playing the comedic stuff. Very, very fun. I liked giving birth at the altar of my wedding after I'd been pregnant for 11 months. But I really do think that the pancreatic cancer storyline was by far my favorite because it was so real.
Yeah.
Such a good time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just your death
and also
alone.
Shooting in Mexico, shooting in Chichen Itza. Because, I was just this mountain girl who moved to Los Angeles and got lucky and got a job a couple of years into living here. So I was very wide-eyed. And Drake used to make fun of me all the time because I answered all my own fan mail. I sent everybody on the cast and crew Christmas cards myself. I would sit in my dressing room for hours and hours, and he was like, honey, you need a publicist. And I was like, what? He's like, you need someone to help you navigate this, to set up interviews. He said, you're going to make it. So I just hired my mom, and my mom helped me with my fan mail.
That's awesome.
And then I did hire a publicist. But, it was fun to have Mom help me with the fan mail. Yeah. But also just even getting to fly and shoot in Mexico. Yeah. They set up this thing where we got to swim with dolphins. These were amazing experiences for me. So I never lost that sense of wonder or gratitude for having a job. Sure, there were cranky days and super tired days. And, you're wrestling with the writers or the director or whatever. There's creative differences, difficulties with your co-stars, whatever, but it's a really good job. And sometimes it's easy for people to forget once they've worked for a while that sense of a lot of people would like to have your job.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it isn't difficult, because it is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to remember all those lines.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. It really
but
is.
I also love working with John Aniston because he is just a man. He is the best.
That's awesome. And I love
Missy.
Victor.
And Missy. I love Missy.
Nice.
And then I'm still best friends with Shannon Sturgis, who played Molly on the show.
That's awesome.
She was on, so we're still good friends.
That's so cool.
So
like nowadays, there's not a lot. Actually, there's barely, if any, on location or on site filming shoots. It's all in LA. So obviously, you had the luxury to fly to Mexico now. Obviously, that's a dream come true. So how did they pay for your stay there? How did all that work out?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it's under SAG after contract rules. right?
Okay, yeah.
Airfare and everything. Everything is covered when you get a per diem and everything's covered. And
That's awesome. Okay, awesome. Let's see. So, do you have like a favorite story that you and Drake like working together? Like, is there any type of story that like not storyline, but like any type of like behind the scenes thing that you have a good memory with when filming with Drake?
Well, we used to work out together too. So we would work out during lunch hour together, and because he's a workout maniac, and then he turned me into a workout maniac. So I just have funny moments because Drake always treated me like I was his little sister.
Right.
And I'd never had a brother.
Yeah.
So he was constantly teasing me and making fun of me. And sometimes it would make me cry because I've never had an older brother before. But he did not mean to make me cry. He's not a mean person.
Right.
So just funny things where he would just make fun of me. And I can't remember exactly, but he was always very lighthearted. And we were very... we just adored each other in a friendship way.
Right.
Really adored each other.
Nice. So obviously, John Aniston, he plays Victor Kiriakis. He was he's very funny on set with his quipped one-liners. Is he like that in real life?
Yes.
I had to ask.
That in real life. He's like that in real life, and he's also like a dad in real life.
Awesome.
So he would say we would be working on our lines, because actors work together in their dressing rooms,
right,
running their lines and stuff. And he would say, "Honey, what are you doing with your money? You're not always going to be making this kind of money." And I would say, "Oh," because I'm just like wide-eyed child. I'm like, "I have a savings account, Mr. Aniston." And he was like, "You need to buy a house and build a guest house in the back for the lean years." It was very practical, like he wanted to caretake.
Right.
Yeah.
Was Jennifer Aniston ever on set?
I only saw her a couple times when she would come to visit her dad. And
okay. You there?
Maybe she'd just come. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we cut out for a little bit there.
So I remember her coming to visit him on set, and she must have only been 17, maybe.
Oh, wow.
And she was sitting on a set of suitcases, or maybe she'd just come from a vacation, or she'd come to visit him. And she had very dark hair. She was young. And I remember Stephen Nichols came in the dressing room, and he said, "That girl out there is going to be a star. Mark my words." And I was like, that teenager out there, how did he know? But he knew.
Yes, he obviously did. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So was there something that you would have liked to do when filming Days that you hadn't done, like any type of storyline or any type of angle that would have been fun to actually do as your character that you didn't get to film at all?
Well, I always envied Jennifer, Missy. She got to be the reporter, right? She and Jack got to be reporters. And I thought that was such a fun story. And they did give me the sleuth. I was a detective for a short time, which was funny. But I was mostly just a love interest for Drake, right?
Right.
I didn't have a separate story, really.
Yeah. So do you still watch Days of Our Lives?
No, I don't watch it.
Okay.
I didn't watch it when I was on it.
Really?
No. It's true. I mean, every once in a while I would watch my scenes just to see how I was doing. Right. But it was also always on the monitors in the makeup room.
Yeah.
So you're already watching everybody's work in the makeup room when you're watching people's scenes. So you don't really go home and watch it. But my mother videotaped on her VCR. She recorded Days of Our Lives every day. And recently she said, "Your father and I are cleaning out the crawl space. What are we going to do with all these videotapes?" And I was like, "Mom, just throw them away." She said, "I can't throw them away."
Right.
But I don't have any children, so I'm like, and they're on VCR tapes, so it's like, well, you got to get a VCR.
That's awesome, though. I mean, your mom had to be so proud of you. You were so talented.
My mom and dad,
your mom and dad.
My mom and dad always. Yep. I'm sure that Dad didn't like the bodice ripper scenes, but that's okay. What was really fun is that my grandpa got to watch while he was alive, and so that was really fun.
That's awesome. So switching now to Friday the 13th, Part 7. So do you remember what your audition was like for the film?
I do.
Awesome.
So that was my first real job. Well, my first job, though, was in a horror film that was never released, or maybe it was just released now, called Terror Night.
Okay.
And it's one of the worst horror films ever made. It's so fun. It's so terrible. I just bought a copy so my husband could watch it, and he was like, so I was the lead in that, in Terror Night, and that's how I met my friend William Butler.
Right.
So Billy was doing Friday the 13th Part 7, and he called me, and he said, my friend John Butler is directing this. He's a really nice guy. You should come down and audition for the role of my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited. Billy is a very generous person.
Okay.
And he's really great with all his actor friends. And he's always trying to get people work, and he's a super good guy. Okay. And so I drove out to wherever they were doing pre-production, deep out in the San Fernando Valley. Mm-hmm. And I auditioned with John Butler, and I got the job. And the cast director, too, and I'm just losing his name. Anthony.
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It's Lady Menopause. It's not him. It's me. I can't remember. I just blank. It'll come back to me. So the cast director was so great. And maybe I auditioned for casting first, and then I went and met John, one way or the other. Right. But anyhow, I was so excited because suddenly I was getting flown first class to Mobile, Alabama, and shooting a movie with my friend Bill Butler. And, Billy really taught me how to act in horror films.
Right.
I really watched him and took his lead. And just like Drake taught me how to be, how to kiss on screen for Days of Our Lives,
Right.
He'd be like, no, turn this way, move your hair. Because it's very technical. It's not sexy. It's totally technical.
Right.
So Friday the 13th was a lot of fun because it was my first job, and it was my first paycheck that said Paramount Pictures on it, and I couldn't believe it was happening.
That's amazing. So how was your death scene film?
And I do have to say one thing, if I could say one thing.
Not a problem.
Horror fans are the best.
That is very true. That is very true.
Horror fans are like so respectful.
Yep.
And just like so into the genre, and not rude, not mean, not
And they're
really
very loyal.
Great, and really great. I did one Monster
Mania.
It was in Virginia Beach. I don't think it's happening anymore.
No, Monster Mania still happens. I'm not sure what it's called.
It mustn't be that then. Something bad happened with the promoter of the one I did.
Oh.
So it didn't happen anymore. But it was a wonderful time. I had gone and done that and signed autographs and done the whole thing. And I was just like, wow, this is fantastic. It's like the fans are really great.
Awesome.
So
that's great. So how was your death scene filmed and prepped?
Oh, for Friday the 13th?
Yes.
See if I can remember. Well, I just remember John Butler because, he passed away last year. He's such a lovely human being. And a special effects guy, too. And I just remember the special effects guy showing me what they were going to make that looked like flesh and blood, and it had paper towel and Karo syrup and some kind of dye, maybe. And they were very super respectful, Kane Hodder and the director, and, they were just really great.
Awesome.
So I just remember the filming as being really respectful, not frightening, really fun to run through the woods screaming with Bill Butler. I mean, like, really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of Kane Hodder, how was it like working with him?
He's a great guy. He's just a big, loving, strong, funny. He's got a great sense of humor. Such a nice guy. And
awesome.
even when we all saw each other last year at John Butler's memorial, everybody's just the same. He's still just like a big, loving guy.
Nice. It's funny because I heard a story about Kane Hodder when he was on set filming Friday the 13th Part 7. He was in full costume, and a kid ended up, I guess, going through the woods, and he's like, "Hey, you're Jason Voorhees. Are you filming that Friday the 13th movie that I heard that they're filming around here?" And he looks at him. He just stares down at him and everything. Full costume. very intimidating, I could imagine, for a little kid. And he just kind of lunged at him, and the kid just ran away, and he tripped over a log, and he kept running, got back up and kept running.
I don't know. I never heard that story.
I read about it on IMDb. I don't know. Go ahead.
He's a very funny guy, so that sounds like something he would do. Yeah.
I could believe he would do that because I heard a lot of stories of him like doing like pranks and stuff like that in costume. So I can kind of picture him doing that. It was on IMDb. That seems more reliable of a source than if it was on Wikipedia. So I wouldn't take it as much with a grain of salt. So I could believe it happening.
Yeah, it sounds like something that he would do.
Awesome. I tried to interview him, but he's way too busy, so it's like hard to meet his schedule. So if I ever interview him, though, I really would like to ask him that question to see if that really happened.
Yeah.
So what was your most memorable moment while filming Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood?
I think just standing on the side of the road, shooting the car breaking down, and with Billy, and I'm so nervous, and I have to say my lines, and I think somehow that acting, film acting, is like you lower your voice. So I keep saying, "When's the last time you put oil in?" Then I just Billy trying to get me to like relax and be comfortable and enjoy myself. Stop acting with my head. Stop shaking my head so much.
So
it is really fun to be young. It's fun to be young and create, and it's a good time.
It is, and it's such a creative job, and I love making that what they call movie magic. I love the fact that you can go from being alive and then shooting a death scene and making it look so real. Like, it's just so artistic.
Yeah,
it's a really artistic job. So what was the best part about filming Friday the 13th Part 7, and what was the worst?
I think the worst was it got cold, but I wasn't the one who had to jump into the lake, so I'm not going to complain. I think she got hypothermia. It was cold. The best part was all of it.
Awesome. That's awesome. So what was John Carl Buechler like as a director?
Professional, talented, respectful, gentle,
That's awesome.
Very easygoing, very mild-mannered. You didn't feel like you were being, manhandled around the set,
Awesome, yeah. And you kind of answered this question, but what was it like working with Bill Butler?
Everything I said.
Awesome. So what was your...
A lot of fun. He keeps it really light. He's a good actor. He's a very talented human.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what was the environment like on set of Friday the 13th Part 7?
People working.
Was it like fast-paced at all?
No, because you've got to set up a shot right, and there were certain things like when they had to blow up the dock, right? The end of the dock.
Yep.
So everybody has to be safe and careful. You have to do it right. There's
Exactly. Go ahead. Yep. The last question I got for you is: do you have any future projects or anything else that you would like to promote to our listeners?
Sure. Well, I'm finishing my literary agent is out there right now pitching my fourth novel, which is called Love and Other Calamities.
Awesome.
About three ex-girlfriends who unite to take down their bad ex-musician boyfriend. And then I'm finishing a rewrite on a novel called, I just changed the title, that's why I spaced out. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Called Killing All the Actors. And Killing All the Actors, Killing All the Actors is about two people who join a survivalist cult in the desert called Take Back America.
Okay.
And I have a screenplay out there that just won some awards called Treed, about a housewife who climbs a tree by the mall and lives in it.
Nice.
And it's based on my third novel, The Last Great American Housewife. So I have a lot of writing that's out there right now being pitched, so hopefully something will get sold.
Awesome.
It's an interesting time. Nobody really knows what is next, so we just take it one day at a time, right?
Yep, exactly. One day at a time, and I mean, I thank you so much for making time for this interview. It was an honor interviewing you, not just as a fan, but as a friend as well and a fellow actor. I mean, it's amazing to get the insight of your success of Days of Our Lives and on Friday the 13th, and I really thank you for your time, and I greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for thinking of me, and I just want to say, don't give up.
Thank you.
That's the key.
Exactly.
The only key in life is don't give up.
Exactly. You stay safe, and
okay, you too.
And everybody can check out Staci Greason's, all of her novels, and you can check her out on IMDb as well for any future projects that she were to have in the works that were to be updated on there as well. And I thank you, Staci.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye.
Hang in there.
Yep, you too. Bye.